Hi everyone and welcome to another episode of the You're Better Off Knowing podcast. Today we want to talk about a very important metric for businesses and advertisers, customer lifetime value or predicted lifetime value. And I'm very delighted to have fabulous experts on this subject with me. So first of all, we have Professor Peter Fader. He's a professor at Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania, co-founder at Theta and Incompass Labs, and author of various books on that customer centricity matter. And next, there's René Tingskov, head of marketing at the multi-category retail chain Søstrene Grene. And next we have Qiong, marketing science partner at Meta. We all call her Q. So very delighted to have you all. Let's do a quick round of intros. Peter, maybe you can start and give us a brief summary on who you are.
You gave the highlights. So professor at the University of Pennsylvania, thinking about all things customer lifetime value for decades, trying to motivate companies and analysts and others to think about these kinds of metrics, trying to raise the bar on the science and trying to come up with new use cases all the time.
Brilliant. Thanks, Peter. Very happy to have you. René, maybe you can go next and give us a short intro.
Yes, sure. Thank you so much for having me. I've been looking so much forward to this. I've been with Søstrene for almost 4 years, and when I started to work for the company, they were actually really new to the whole digital space. And a very interesting fact about Søstrene is that we are actually a 50-year-old company, but we've only had a digital presence since 2020, when Corona was at its highest. And of course, that means we are still novices when it comes to e-commerce and customer lifetime value and stuff like that. But on the other hand, it also presents a possibility for us to not do all the mistakes all other digital companies have made. So over the past 4 years, we've grown a lot. And today, Søstrene is in more than 15 countries, and we have more than 360 stores. And actually, we are aiming towards 500 stores in 2027. And also, I'm very pleased to say that today we have a strong digital presence, both strengthening our physical stores and also adding on top of a growing e-commerce business. And really looking forward to dig deeper into customer lifetime value today.
That's very impressive, and we're really looking forward to your insights. So, Q, can you go next?
Yes, hi, I'm Qiong, a marketing science partner at Meta, but everyone calls me Q because I work with cool measurement gadgets to help businesses tackle their challenges and achieve their growth missions. Really excited to be on this podcast.
Confirming the cool gadget stuff. So great. Let's dive into the topic for this episode. Peter, why should businesses care about customer value at all?
Well, business should care about profitability. I think we can agree on that. And we all know the problems if we focus only on short-term profitability. We'll do terrible things and we'll have bad long-run outcomes. So let's focus on the long run. And we want to focus on the long run for the business, which means we want to focus on the long run for the customers. We want to be able to project how long are they going to stay with us? How often are they going to buy? How much are they going to spend? And do that literally over long runs, not just next quarter. Maybe not even just next year, but maybe perhaps even a decade ahead. Back in the old days, it would have been just impossible to get the right kind of data, to have the right kind of analytical capabilities, to have the computational capabilities to do and to act on all of this. But thanks to just all kinds of advances, many of which we can thank Meta for, it's now possible. And in fact, I'd say it's not just possible, it's urgent, it's essential for companies to do things this way. It's not just an opportunity, it's a responsibility. And so I really welcome conversations like this, again, not just to raise the bar on how we do it, but to insist that all companies, public, private, consumer-facing, B2B, product services, everyone should be thinking about the long run for their customers in order to think about the long run for the business.
Great. René, what's your view on this and what's Søstrene Grene's view on this?
Well, first off, I totally agree with Peter in basically all that he said. At Søstrene Grene, we actually have a strategy that we want to be one of the companies that in the world that knows their customers the best. So one of the first things we did when I came along to the company was actually to invest in a CDP, also known as a customer data platform, because we early on understood the competitive advantage of owning customer data ourselves in very large scale. And we truly believe that this will be the competitive advantage for the digital business in the future. Because what we also see is that privacy online is a growing factor, and it challenges companies like Meta, but also other of our partners. But the better data you as a company has to share with your partners, for Meta, for example, through the CAP integration, the better results you also get as a company. I know that some people say that if you put crap in, you get crap out. You could also turn around saying that if you invest in quality data and you're able to provide your partners with quality data, the possibility for you getting better results in the outcome is also far greater. To us at Søstrene Grene, also owing first-party data like an email, which to us is very essential, talking about customer lifetime value, with the marketing permission, is actually almost better than money in the bank. It's one of the most valuable business assets we have, and our data strategy actually rotates around first-party data and user data. And also being able to not just find the cheapest leads, but actually to find the best in order to grow revenue throughout or with customer lifetime value customers. And also we know for a fact that if we can turn a customer into a customer with a marketing permission and an email, we can actually more than double the customer lifetime value for that particular person. So it's not just something I'm saying, we actually have facts to back it. And also being a company that truly believes in first-party data and the magic it can do to a company. We've actually established customer lifetime value as our primary KPI within marketing. But of course, we also use low funnel sales tracks like Meta and other partners also offer in order to both chase and secure daily revenue. But the most important part for us is not the quick revenue. It is actually, as Peter said, to invest in the longer relationships we have with our customers. And to us, effective lead gen strategies is actually much more valuable than short-term sales tracks. And actually, luckily to us, Meta offers, at least as what we see, the best and most advanced lead gen strategies on the market right now.
Very happy to hear that, of course. Q, what's Meta's perspective on customer lifetime value?
Yes, so the whole concept of customer lifetime value is nothing new. It has been around for decades, and it's been helping multiple business functions in making strategic decisions such as finance, product development, customer service, etc. But Meta is a marketing platform, so naturally our focus is on the intersection of marketing and customer lifetime value. And our biggest mission at Meta is to help our advertisers grow, because we grow only when our advertisers are growing, and we want to be our advertisers' long-term growth partner. And we also know that Meta users not only get inspired by our platforms and purchase once, they keep coming back for more inspirations, which means we are not only driving short-term revenue for our advertisers, but also driving long-term growth. However, we are facing, I think, two fundamental challenges when it comes to digital campaigns. One, not every customer is created equal, and their long-term profit contribution to our business success can vary quite a lot. And two, digital campaigns today are often bound by attribution windows or optimization windows, which are often 1 day or 7 days, which means that the algorithm are trying to maximize the number of outcomes within 7 days from ad exposure. But we know in reality, not everyone will act and make a purchase within 7 days after seeing an ad. So potentially we're missing out on a lot of late bloomers. Therefore, at Meta, we are always striving to develop new products and strategies that can help our advertisers tackle these two fundamental challenges. The marketing science team's mission is to collaborate with our advertisers to gain a deeper understanding of their customer data and purchase behavior over time. For example, understanding the correlation between short-term and long-term customer profitability can be extremely valuable in choosing the right Meta product that best aligns with their ultimate business goal.
Cool. Let's dig into details then. So, I mean, we've heard a lot now about why this is important and how we can help overall. But let's start with what exactly is customer lifetime value? How would you define it? Peter, maybe we start from the academic perspective.
Sure. So the definition is kind of clear, but also not very helpful. So it's just going to be the net present value of all profitability from that customer. So that's the definition. That's, no one would argue about that. But like I said, that's not very practical. And it turns out that a lot of the time that we're talking about customer lifetime value, we don't necessarily need that entire concept of, a net present value of profitability. Sometimes all we're interested in would be one of the three components that are one level down. So very often it's better to have the conversation about what comprises lifetime value. And as I said, it's three things, three different kinds of behaviors, three different forecasting models. One is, how long is the relationship going to last? That's the L part of customer lifetime value. So how long will it be until this customer just no longer engages with us? It could be, how long until the last purchase occurs. It could be how long until they just never visit the website or talk about us again. It could be, how long until they no longer have needs for this product category, or maybe even, I hate to say it, how long until they die. So how long will the relationship last? That's number one. Number two, over that horizon, how many activities of economic value will they do with us? Again, obviously it's purchasing, but it could be visits to the website. It could be referrals. It could be just other ways of engaging, posting ratings and reviews, or just even reading about us. So how often will they do things that could drive some future value? And number three, when they do those things, how much value is generated? So how much money do they spend? How much time do they spend? How many people do they refer? So it's really those three components, which we could boil down to customer retention, repeat purchasing, and spend. Understanding each of those, I don't think needs a lot of motivation, but lifetime value is when you just bring them all together, and in some sense you find synergies between them that make it even more powerful, more useful than any one of these elements by itself.
That sounds good, and it's actually easily understandable and probably applicable. René, how does Søstrene Grene define it, and what parameters are you looking at?
Well, at Søstrene Grene, as I mentioned before, actually CLV is our primary KPI, at least for marketing. But we're working on also implementing as a KPI for the whole business, and we are getting along with that. We know a lot about our customers, and I agree with all that Peter is saying here. For us to really understand our customers, we've also actually developed a customer lifetime dashboard in order to understand some of the things that Peter is talking about here. So how often do we see the customer? How often do they buy from us? What is the churning rate for that customer, and all those sort of things, so we actually can help prevent them from churning, but also give them more of what we can see that they like. And also we can actually help, the dashboard can also help us distinguish which are the best lead gen strategies for us to invest more heavily in. Which campaigns can we see that works for us in order to achieve more happy customers. Again, I think for us, I would like to stress that working with CLV, a consistent ID is really, really important for us. First-party data, like an email, because once you have that, you can actually start to track all of these things we are talking about. How the customer behaves over a given period of time, how many times the person buys from you, and stuff like that. And also what he or she actually likes from your assortment. So for us, it really depends on the data you have on the customers, also what you're able to track. And also, in order to actively work with customer lifetime value as a company, you really need a marketing permission, at least in a European context, in order to communicate and reach out to your customers. And this is really where we see lead gen activities as something very fundamental to the work with CLV. And for the context we are discussing today with the customer value use cases, we can also see that things have evolved, also with the evolution of advertising media, where we have gone again from buying space to audiences to now outcomes. And also our lead gen strategies have developed a lot all over the past years, also with the way we are looking at customer lifetime value, because only a couple of years ago we were actually only able to find leads on, for instance, Meta, where we could only collect an ID and get high volume of leads. And then it developed into something we call the CRM leads, where we actually are trying to tie up our CRM system with Meta in order to better optimize against potential new customers. And that in itself was actually a big move in the right direction, working with CLV, because now we were not able only to find leads, but actually there was more potential in finding actual customers. And that was a big move. And then, of course, what we are going to talk about today as use case from our side is the customer lifetime value, which we are now, through AI systems, we are able to optimize against a certain outcome. So not only customers, but now we are actually better positioned to find our best customers, or more of our best customers. And that is very, very interesting from my point of view.
Right, and talking about those technical developments, Q, maybe you can also share a little bit how developments with machine learning and AI have evolved the whole matter, also with a perspective from Meta.
Yes, I absolutely want to echo what René mentioned, how technology have completely revolutionized how media buying works. We started from buying spaces to buying audiences and now directly buying outcomes. And these outcomes is what we call signal. And in almost all the big marketing platforms, we are all signal based, meaning that whatever signal you want us to optimize and deliver for you, we're extremely efficient at doing that. So this also enabled a number of very new and exciting use cases for customer lifetime value. So before this revolution, customer lifetime value is a metric that companies look back at after a period, right? And then make future business decisions. However, with advancement of signal-based marketing platforms and also machine learning, PLTV models, we can actually turn this KPI or metric into an optimization signal. Like René mentioned, today we have an opportunity to optimize directly towards high PLTV value new customers. And this is what excites us as Meta. And we have seen thriving advertisers like Søstrene and Grene have successfully adopted PLTV strategies on our platforms. And this is where we really see how people have a competitive advantage in this AI race, because everyone have access to the AI platforms that Meta and other platforms offer. So how do I as a business stand out from this AI competition? And we believe that the answer lies in how well are you aligning your ultimate long-term business goal, which is profitable growth, with the optimization signal. Are you really leveraging AI to do the hard work for you, to optimize directly towards what matters to you in the long run? And also, what do you measure your team's success on? What KPI do you look like? So if those three elements are closely aligned, then we see companies thrive because they have a shared vision across the org, across different teams towards the same goal. But in most cases, we see that companies have challenges aligning those three elements, and then it creates all kinds of challenges, big and small, and internal and external. So this is where we see thriving companies versus struggling companies differ.
If I may, I want to add on and emphasize a point that Q raised. We've been talking about LTV all this time, but she mentioned PLTV, and I think it's really, really important for us to acknowledge that distinction. For a lot of companies, sometimes they'll talk about lifetime value being more historic. So, how much has this customer spent with us? How long have they been with us? If you notice the way that I mention it, it's how long will they stay? How often will they buy? So that distinction between predictive lifetime value versus, say, historical lifetime value is so critical. It's critical for the way we do things, but it also creates both this opportunity and point of differentiation about how do we look at the future and how do we embrace the different kinds of technologies like machine learning and AI, because the future could look very differently for different kinds of companies. And so it's great that Meta is doing two things. Number one, orienting us and advertisers and the whole world to look to the future instead of the past. And number two, to leverage the best possible data and technology to enable us to do so. So we're not afraid of the future. We can actually embrace it, but still approach it in ways that's not going to be one size fits all for all companies.
Yes, absolutely. Just adding one sentence regarding this topic, the importance of the signal. So we are a signal-based platform, and that means that our algorithm needs feedback to learn very efficiently. And therefore, the speed of the prediction or how fast we can give them the feedback really determines how well the algorithm or AI can do a better job for you as a business. So that's why we do have we do see that there can be drastic differences when it comes to business impact when we are able to make early predictions rather than later predictions. Even 24 hours can make a big difference in this case.
Great. So we heard a lot about the definition, why it's important, the opportunities we have also due to technology. And of course, we want to learn more about how Søstrene Grene did it together with Meta. Before we do that, just in very general, Peter, how would you implement customer lifetime value or predicted lifetime value? What would you recommend how to implement it into a daily business to secure long-term growth?
You know, it's such an important question. And even though I'm the lifetime value guy, I'm guilty of not addressing that question well for many years. I used to say, here's the model, go use it. But life is much more complicated than that. And there's really at least three things you need to have in place that have nothing to do with the model. One, as René said, you have to have the data in place. So he mentioned the importance of a CDP, a customer data platform. And again, there it's not just it's a spreadsheet or something. It's having a robust data platform where you really trust it, where there are no systematic gaps, and it's the right data to be using. So that's number one. Number two, you have to have the right corporate culture. You have to make sure that it's not just the people in marketing. And one of the things that, again, has been bubbling up in the conversation, but we need to call attention to it, is to make sure that we have complete buy-in from the folks in finance, supply chain, R&D. So we've got to make sure that everybody has their eyes on the prize for these long-run activities. And again, sometimes that's very difficult to achieve because people think that it just belongs to marketing alone. And then number three, you have to have the right team and or the right partners in place, because we're talking about a lot. And to be able to implement this, to be able to communicate it, to be able to get the buy-in, both from, again, all the internal stakeholders as well as the external, that's why having the right companies to work with, maybe a Meta, maybe the companies that I run, Theta, and having just a great internal team that can take the advice, that can take the analytics, that can take the models and actually know what to do with them instead of just hoping that magic will happen. So there's a lot of elements that need to be in place in order to get success from it. And unfortunately, all too often, one of those things isn't in place or falls apart. And so what René and his team have been doing, it's been kind of just the best of all worlds, bring it all together in just a really, really effective way. So let's hear more from him.
We'll come to that now, actually. So let's talk about that concrete example and then hear from René.
I just actually have a comment for Peter because I totally agree. Again, it's funny enough, but I agree with the point that customer lifetime value needs to be a KPI that is established throughout the organization. The problem or the challenge with the Søstrene Grene from our perspective is that we are still lacking data from our physical stores, and our physical stores they stand for 90% of our revenue, and only like 10 or 15% of our company revenue comes out of online or e-commerce. So and we are working on closing that gap between the offline and the offline world by both looking at should we invest more in a loyalty program, but also should we invest more in offline data. So how can we capture those transactions once these happens in the stores, and how can we tie it up to a particular more consistent ID? Because that is what we are lacking in order to actually fully establish customer lifetime value as a KPI throughout the whole organization. Because if we can look at a holistic customer, both from an offline and online perspective, we are much closer at closing that gap. At Søstrene Grene, we work with something called must-win battles. I believe most companies have something similar to that. But for us, one of the must-win battles is actually finding a partner and also building a solution that can actually help harvest the data from our physical stores, because that is very imperative for us going into the future.
Yeah. And I know that through our collaboration on the PLTV project, it actually accelerated your exploration of implementing or testing digital receipts in store, and also accelerated your loyalty program and the app launch, right?
Exactly. So we prolonged almost the test with PLTV, where we tested on different solutions for getting data receipts in our physical stores. But what you also need to know about Søstrene Grene is that we sell also a lot of cheap products. And there is a fine line for when a customer wants to have a receipt. There needs to be some sort of investment level. So we learned a lot from the test, and we are planning a new test. Actually, we had a meeting with the steering committee this week, so we have big plans for the future in that regard.
Oh, and here I go. I got to jump in again, if I may. I just love hearing this, and so much value is going to come from that kind of testing, ongoing testing. It's not just enough to run one experiment and say, hey, the group that we looked at lifetime value does better than the group that doesn't. That's just the starting point. It's just ongoing experimentation. It's focused on, I'm going to take one of Q's words, she'll say more about it, incrementality. It's not a matter of just running some kind of statistical model, getting some, beta coefficient and saying, there it is, now let's spend all our money on that particular vehicle. It's learning, it's adapting, and it's looking for incremental impact of the marketing signals over a very well-established baseline model that's represented by PLTV. Say more, Q.
Yes, absolutely. At Meta, we live and breathe incrementality, because understanding the true incremental value caused by marketing that wouldn't have happened otherwise is the gold standard of measurement. And this year, we are going beyond incremental measurement. We just launched a very exciting optimization product called incremental attribution, where our machine learning models enable the ad delivery systems to optimize directly towards incremental conversions instead of attributed conversions. This new product ultimately closed the gap between incremental measurement and incremental optimization.
It's actually music to our ears, right? I mean, we are marketing science. We're all about testing and learning. And I think René and Q had a long journey on that and did a lot of testing and learning. So maybe you two can share a little bit of that journey with us, how you did it actually to build models that could be utilized with Meta, what you tested, what failed, what worked. Would be very happy to hear a little bit more about it.
René, please start.
Yes, I will. So I'll pass the ball over to you in just a few minutes, Q. So I would say that at Søstrene Grene, we are actually quite good at digital marketing, and we are quite experienced with the Performance 5 framework and stuff like that. And we know our way around data. But we also know that our customers are not created equal. So as stated, we know a lot about our data and a lot about our customers, and we are investing in becoming the company that knows the most about our customers. but we also want to make sure that we are getting the most out of our data from a business perspective. So how did we do that? We reached out to Meta and Q with a challenge where we asked them, can Meta help us acquire customers who stay with us long term and contribute to long term revenue growth? And we were really happy that Q accepted our challenge and actually connected us with another interesting partner called Journey. And together, the three of us actually went on a very, very exciting journey where we also truly tested our test and learn mindset at Søstrene Grene, because it was not just an easy win. We actually had to iterate quite a lot. But thankfully, it all went well in the end after a lot of testing.
Yes, absolutely. So first and foremost, it was a challenge in a number of ways because we have many success stories helping app and gaming advertisers achieve really good results with PLTV strategies leveraging custom event optimization because they have that early signal advantage. As soon as someone downloads the app and registers, we can start collecting their identified data tied to a specific user, and then we can make fairly early predictions about their long-term value, and then we can set a threshold and then optimize directly towards that high-value custom event. However, with e-com and retail advertisers like Søstrene Grene, we don't have that early signal advantage. The only time or the first time we know someone is probably during the checkout where they give us their email or phone number. Of course, everything's hashed. So therefore, we need to find a new strategy or solution to help Søstrene Grene. So no one have tested this before, but we work closely with our product team to come up with a potential strategy leveraging two solutions that we have. One is value-based lookalike audience, and one is bid multipliers, where we guide our algorithm to bid higher on higher potential value audiences and vice versa. But of course, like at Marketing Science, we measure everything through incrementality, and in Disney fairy tale style, we run one test and it's statistically significant, everyone's happy, the strategy scaled. However, in this case, it was not the case. We failed how many tests? I think during a 3-month period, we continued to iterate the strategy. We adjusted the lookalike audience. We adjusted the bid towards different lookalike audiences. We tried to treat iOS versus Android users differently. And finally, after 8 iterations, we finally have very consistent results through the PLTV strategy, outperforming your existing very efficient cross-border strategy in both Ads Manager and Conversion Lift Study, where we make sure that any results or impact we're driving for you is incremental, are people who would not have purchased without seeing our ad. So yeah, if there's one learning taking from this journey is a true test and learn mindset, where I rarely see, this is a very rare quality that Søstrene Grene has as an organization, because other advertisers would have given up after the second failed conversion lift test, or maybe the third. But you guys were like, oh, let's continue because this matters so much for our business. We really care about profitable, scalable growth through Meta. So let's keep trying until we reach that vision, reach that goal. So we are really honored for your trust in this partnership, for challenging us, and also for trusting us to continue to iterate the strategy, because nobody knows if it will work or not. And now we know it works. And this strategy has been successfully scaled to multiple advertisers in multiple regions across multiple verticals. So we're so grateful for this opportunity to be able to test this very exciting new strategy with you. Thank you for your trust in this partnership.
I would just would like to jump in and say here also the key here is the partnership, and also the close partnership, because also the reason why we went along with so many iterations was of course because we believed in the project, but also due to very competent partners. I would say both UQ and Journey has been very, very good partners to us along the process. and we also, I would say, we also kept learning stuff, even though the test didn't go as we planned. We learned a lot, and for us also, failing can be very, very good in these processes. So thank you right back.
Thank you.
I think the latter is a very important point that many people in marketing science are aware of, but others might not. Failing is not necessarily a negative thing. It's more knowing what you should avoid in the future. So it's also a learning. Hence, I find it really interesting to hear about that long journey and how it helped.
Exactly. And also, failing also showed us what we should not do and what we should do more of. So building upon what worked, and in that way, we found a very, very good and stable foundation for the final solution. And I think that's very, very important when you do test and learn frameworks to be able to learn throughout the whole process.
We've talked now also a lot about how to implement a model and how to make it work on an advertising platform. Maybe a more general question, also mostly to Peter and René, how do you actually build that model? How do you find the right model? And how do you validate it afterwards? Because it's still a prediction, right? So how do you check if the prediction is right?
Yeah, well, that's been the focus of my existence for about 25 years now, is doing the science, figuring out the math that's required, what's the data inputs, that the kind of minimal data inputs, enough that we can get the job done, but without having to have every piece of data. As René said, you can't get it all. And it turns out that the science is pretty well established by now. And I'll take a little tiny bit of the credit for kind of doing math, finding other published academic papers, testing them, validating them, fine-tuning them. And we're at the point now where this is the least of our problems. The other problems that I mentioned, data, culture, buy-in, those are the hard part. But the basic models, and especially if we're talking about a retail setting, well, on one hand, it's very complicated because sometimes people buy a lot and then they'll go 2 years without buying, and there's no contract in place. And so they just stop buying. It's not like they call up and cancel. The best you can do is to say, hey, they used to buy a lot from me. They haven't been around for a while. I think they're gone. And is to come up with the probability that the customer is still alive, the probability that they'll do something in the next period or not, the probability that the purchase will be above a certain level. And so the course that I teach here at the Wharton School is applied probability models in marketing. And just like with a weather forecast or other domains where we care so much about coming up with probabilities and living and dying by just how valid those probabilities are, we can do the very same things for our customers. And people don't believe it. They say, oh, our business is constantly changing. Oh, our customers are so fickle. Oh, competition is out there. But it turns out, in the same way that we can come up with probabilities in an insurance setting, what's the probability you'll have an accident in the next year? What's the probability you'll live to be 85 years old? And then, setting our rates, setting our policies based on those probabilities, we can do exactly the same thing, applying that same kind of actuarial thinking and science to customers buying, just as we would do about policyholders dying. And we've nailed that. Now it's just a matter of figuring out how to spread the gospel and get marketers to adopt it as kind of as deeply and committedly as René and his team have done.
Thank you. René, do you have anything to add or to share on how you validate your models? How do you know how good they are?
Fairly, I would say, but it is actually, if we're focusing at least on the test we did with Qiong and Qiong, this is the part that is a bit tricky because of the way we built the campaigns, where we are actually using the optimized PLTV signals, because it was just to be a little bit technical or practical. It was set up as catalog ads, which are very short-term conversion ads, where we are focusing on lower funnel. and the challenge here was that for this type of advertising, we don't get a consistent ID from the customer, like an email once the purchase is made. So for this test, we actually had to rely on UTM identifiers when evaluating backend in our CDP. And actually, UTMs in itself is not a varying identifying mechanism. You can definitely use that, but sadly, we did not have a consistent customer ID to tie together with the UTM identifier, and that's where it became a little bit uncertain. However, we were still able to do a lot of meaningful cohort analysis to follow also the repeat purchase rate of the new customers we acquire throughout the PLTV strategy. And what we saw was that the customers we acquired with the PLTV strategy was that we were able to secure that customer came back much more frequently actually than our regular customers. And also seeing that we got a higher CLV for the customers acquired by this strategy. The sad part is that we didn't get full data, and I would say in order for us to do that in round 2, if we get to that queue, it would be to tie up our PLTV optimization together with lead gen. That would actually be a dream for me to do that. Because and actually we are already looking a little bit into this both together with Meta and with Journey, and the reason why it's important to do this is that we need to get that consistent ID again, as I mentioned before, in order to track a customer over a given period of time, and not losing that tracking along the way. Because it is just easier for us also in the backend to track with something like an email as an identifier. So I say that's the feedback for the future test also.
Brilliant. Thanks everyone. This is really fascinating, and I think one last question is I guess there's a lot to come still on the topic. So can we get an outlook on what's to come? What are you working on at the moment? Maybe starting with Peter. What are academics working on the topic at the moment? And maybe also a little bit on, do you think developments take too long to be implemented by practitioners? Would you love to see more quicker uptake?
Oh, such a great point. You're kind of right that the academic review process, which on one hand is very rigorous, and the best models do emerge from it, but it does take years, which is why these days I'm actually spending less of my time focusing my R&D efforts towards the academic journals and more towards just putting them out there in practice. And so there's really kind of three main directions I'm going in. Number one, it's bringing in the AI and the ML on top of these well-established probability models, being able to really combine the different kinds of signals that the Q keeps referring to with some of these baseline understandings of the probabilistic nature of customers buying and so on. Really important to do that, really valuable and much more feasible today than it ever was before. So that's number one, is just, again, same core models, but just making them more suitable for today's data-rich and AI and ML-driven environment, number one. Number two would be finding much broader use cases. So a lot of my work these days is not just on the marketing side, most of what we've been talking about here, but on the finance side as well. So spending a lot of time with the people in finance within the company or with investors and investment banks to be able to look at companies through the lens of, well, how valuable is the customer base? Because that is more indicative of the value of the company than anything else. I'd much rather look to see what the customers are doing as opposed to what products are in the R&D pipeline or how beloved is the brand or just a lot of the other weaker signals that people look at. And number three is scaling. In some ways, coming back to the AI and ML, but trying to make these models hands-off. So that instead of having to have an army of data scientists, instead of having people like me in the loop, making sure that the model is working well and doing a lot of that fine-tuning, to find ways to automate the whole thing, to let the AI kind of capture whatever it is that I do, so that you can run the models far more quickly, far more comparably, and in a wider variety of domains. So lots of progress on all three fronts.
That is exciting. Thank you very much. René, do you have anything to add? You already mentioned you're working on lead generation, on loyalty programs. Anything else you have in store for the future?
As I mentioned before, the lead gen strategies, we need to do that with also with the predictive signals, because I think that's going to be a real game changer for us to invest more heavily in our best predicted customers. If we can find those, we are really lucky. But also, I would say to build on our data foundation is one of the things we are working on in the future, because for me to see that is the most important thing. If you want to build an algorithm or machine learning, you need to do it on the proper foundation. And for us, offline data is the next step, because if we can find the best customers online, fantastic. If we can find them for the whole business, even better. So if we can succeed with that, I think we're going to be very successful in the future as well. So I would say closing the data gap, and also building strong models upon the data we are already collecting and will be collecting in the future.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. And last but not least, Qiong, can you share a little bit what Meta is working on?
Yes. Like I mentioned before, we are trying to close the gap between the three elements: the business ultimate goal and optimization signal and the KPI that they measure on. And when we look at advertisers like Søstrene and Grene, who's in the forefront when it comes to PLTV and leveraging PLTV to drive long-term profitable growth, we see there's a much deeper shift happening from a product-focused growth strategy to a customer-centric growth strategy, which Professor Fader knows all about it, because you have a whole book on customer centricity. And I really love the concept where a product-focused strategy only cares about the number of products and services you have sold. So volume is everything, growth volume. But when you have shifted your perspective to customer, then it's all about aligning your company's resources with the current and future need of your highest value customers, who are going to pull up their wallet and pay for your product and services. So it's a very fundamental shift, and we see that happening, or they've already happened in the companies who reach out to us, ask us for PLTV strategies to align with their long-term goal. So that's something that I will continue to help businesses with at Meta.
Thanks so much. Now, before we close, I'd love a brief summary from everyone. So maybe in 3 to 4 sentences, what do you think is the main idea that we want the audience to take away from today's episode?
I'm happy to jump in. Customer lifetime value is the future, literally and figuratively. It's the future of your customers. It's the future of your business. It's more necessary than ever to be looking ahead over the long run. It's more possible than ever. A lot of the work that Meta is doing to both enable it, legitimize it, emphasize it, is terrific. And I'm just so glad to see that happening. I mean, I've had nothing to do with the particular engagement that they had with René and his team. I'm just watching it and smiling and saying, I want this kind of example to become common, not just a kind of a one-shot anecdote with one company over in Europe. I want it to be global. I want it to be daily. I want it to be really, really powerful and appreciated by businesses everywhere.
Great. Brilliant. Thanks so much. René, what's your summary?
I would say it's fundamental to invest in owning your own data as a company, and investing in first-party data. The more you know about your customers, the better decisions you are able to make. And also, if you are so lucky that you have a partner like Meta, they are also relying on the data you have to share. So you're not able to build machine learning models or AI models if you don't have any solid foundation to work from. And then I would also say that I definitely need to look more into what Peter has done, because I think we can do a much better job as practitioners, looking more into what has been done in the academic world, because I think we're not so good at doing that. We are more listening to partners and also going to events if we need to get new knowledge. So I think definitely also looking more into academic work.
It's a great call out. Thank you. Q, what are your final words?
Yes, and I think so. Following on the product-focused growth strategy versus a customer-centric growth strategy, I think the key for this strategic shift is your customer insights. Start looking at your customers. Look at how much % of your customer base are actually paying for your products and services. How many of their first purchases happen within 7 days, within that optimization window, and how many of your highest value customers in the long run, in 12 months, 24 months, how did they look by day 7? They might look like they may have zero spend, or they might look like your worst customers, and vice versa. Your best customers by day 7 may not be your best customers down the road. So start looking at your customer data, and then start to understand how diverse they are, and also how important it is for your business to start looking at a potential predicted metric to leverage AI-powered signal-based platforms like Meta.
That makes sense. Well, thank you all. Thank you very much. This was a very inspiring episode, at least to me. I have learned a lot. I hope the audience did too. Thank you everyone for tuning in and listening. If you found it interesting as well, please subscribe, share, and stay tuned for the next episodes of this podcast. Bye.